What's going on, everybody, and welcome in. 2023 fantasy football is officially upon us. The NFL draft is over. Free agency, for the most part, has been settled. Most of the people have landed in their spots. We still have some free agents like Zeke Elliott, Kareem Hunt, but most of the guys who are on their last year of their contracts got franchise tagged or got signed to a new contract. So everyone's in place, and we're ready to go with my rankings, my 1 through 12 half PPR rankings for 2023. So, if you're new to the channel, welcome in. Stick around, like the video if you like it, subscribe to the channel, there'll be plenty of more content coming your way. So before we hop into my number one player, let's talk about the 1 through 12 class this year. It feels a little bit weaker as a running back whole class than it has been in the past. We have the top guys, which mine will be Christian McCaffrey number one, but we kind of feel like we're out of a lot of foolproof guys this year. Where in years past, we felt pretty confident. You know, we're going to go through my list, and, you know, I hit number 7, 8, and then I go, I don't totally know, right? Like, I'm kind of at a loss for words. There's guys I like, guys I have hope for, but I don't know if I want them in my first round, right? There's a lot of receivers this year. So I think this year specifically, where it hasn't been like this in the past, I think wide receivers, maybe a tight end, Travis Kelce, and maybe 5 to 6 running backs are going to go in the first round. So I think it's going to be a true maybe 50-50 split, where most of the time round one is 80% running backs with a few receivers scrambled in there. Maybe you throw in Travis Kelce. But for this year, I think it's going to be close to maybe a 60-40, 50-50 split. It's going to be pretty close. So with that being said, let's talk about the guys that I feel confident in, and let's talk about my number one guy. It's Christian McCaffrey, right? We all know the CMC story. McCaffrey is a baller. When he plays, the guy is pure electric. He's going to catch nearly 100 passes. I mean, he's probably the best receiving back in NFL history. Not even probably, he is. I mean, the guy's awesome. And he's pretty much a guarantee locked in 1,000 to 1,200 yards on the ground if he's healthy. But that's the big if, right? Is the guy going to be healthy? You know, I saw him do it with Brock Purdy last year, which, I'm not trying to brag. I did call the Brock Purdy thing. Check that video out if you want. It's on my channel. But, I seen him do it with Brock Purdy. So this year, coming back with maybe Brock Purdy again, or Trey Lance, or Sam Darnold, I have faith that no matter what situation McCaffrey's in, plus I saw him do it with the Panthers all these years, I think he's going to be fine. I have no worries about Christian McCaffrey at all. He's awesome in PPR leagues because he's going to catch you a million passes. He's going to run the ball a lot. But the one thing I do like that the 49ers do with him is that they complement him with another power back, right? Whether it's Elijah Mitchell or blah, blah, blah rookie they drafted they don't care about. They just throw in there to get him some touches so McCaffrey doesn't die, right? So McCaffrey can stay healthy. So that's why I have McCaffrey 1. I think the 49ers really know how to use him. I'm not scared of their system. Kyle Shanahan knows what he's doing. So I think Christian McCaffrey locked in. Half PPR, full PPR, he's my number one guy. Coming in at my number 2 is going to be Austin Ekeler. Now, another guy, just a beast, man. I mean, it's a little bit of a different scenario, right? He's never going to be a true running back. You're never going to get the guy that's going to run for, 12 to 1,500 yards and, 15 touchdowns on the ground with another 100. Like, you're not going to get that guy. But what Austin Ekeler is he's a great pass-catching back as well in a really good offense. Justin Herbert took a big step back last year, right? He went from, I believe it was over 40 touchdowns a year prior. Last year, he threw 25. That's a big drop-off. Kellen Moore is now their OC. And we saw Kellen Moore for years make Zeke Elliott relevant, Tony Pollard relevant. So with him moving on to the Chargers, Kellen Moore, I like the OC situation. I like the offensive coordinator, man. I like that the coach, Brandon Staley, goes for it on 4th down. I like that they don't use Austin Ekeler like a crazy Derrick Henry type running back. They spell him because he's too small. And as a result, he stays healthy. The only downside I have to Austin Ekeler are 2 things. One, admittedly, the guy's small, right? You could look at him. He could be as jacked as you think he is, as he wants to be. He's not big, right? So, in the past 2 years, I have it in my notes, 38 total rushing touchdowns. 38. That's insane. That is insanity. I don't think a guy like Austin Ekeler is able to really sustain that year after year after year. I'm not saying it's impossible, but I wouldn't bank on touchdowns. And the other thing He's going on age 29. Now, he isn't as worn out as other running backs because he doesn't get a boatload of touches. But he is hitting that age 29 season. He demanded a trade. So who knows if maybe he ever holds out. Something weird's there. But I'm not trying to talk crap on the guy. I mean, he's my number 2 running back. You can't beat that. I have faith in him. Like I said, sure, maybe the touchdowns aren't super consistent year after year, but the last 2 years they have been. So why can't it be 3 in a row? I mean, nearly 40 touchdowns in 2 years. You can't beat that as your RB2 in fantasy football. With a guy's going to catch over 100 passes probably again, I'm taking Austin Ekeler number 2. Coming in at my number 3 is going to be Derrick Henry. This one was a really rocky one for me. This one was hard for me to do in my heart, just because as much as I like Derrick Henry, and I think Derrick Henry's great, he's getting up there in age too, like Ekeler. He's just turned 29. In the whole Tennessee situation, it's rocky, man. I mean, Ryan Tannehill's in the last year of his contract, so who knows if he even plays the whole season. Because if they're not doing great, I'm sure they'll bench him and play Malik Willis or Will Levis, who they just drafted in the 2nd round. So that's some options there where you go, oh, cool. So I got this rookie running back or a second-year running back, or rather, a rookie quarterback or a second-year quarterback, where I go, I don't know if these guys are even good. I can't tell. And not to mention, Henry is on his last year of his contract. So who knows if he ends up getting traded, if he ends up staying on the team, if they, I don't know. Maybe they just run him into the ground like he always has, and he balls out. And I think he can because he's still good. I didn't see any drop-off from last year. We know that he has the tendency of doing, 25 carries for 90 yards, and you go, that was an okay day. But then you give him that 26th carry, and he breaks it for 60 yards, and he makes your heyday. That's Derrick Henry in a nutshell. So as long as he doesn't lose a step, which I don't think he did from what I saw last season, I'm in on Derrick Henry. And also, weirdly, he caught some passes last year, which he never did in his career. So there's a little risk there with hitting about the age 30 mark. Usually that's where running backs fall off. But I didn't see anything last year, so this might be Derrick Henry's last year on contract with Tennessee. It might be his last, big hoorah, locked in, 300 touch season, 400 touch season, where they give him the workload and he balls out one last time before hitting age 30. And coming in at my number 4 is going to be Saquon Barkley. And man, what a bounce back for this guy, right? He was on the Giants in 2021. They looked like a complete dumpster fire. Daniel Jones was hurt. Joe Judge was their head coach. Jake Fromm ended up playing a little bit. Mike Glennon, they were a disaster. Not to mention him coming off the ACL. It was just a bad season. I bit the bullet that year. I was wrong. But I believed in the talent, and I made a video on it. And I bid on him this year. In 2022, I was in, and it paid off. The man was awesome last year. Big plays. Still looks quick and explosive. And the thing that I loved is that he stayed healthy throughout the year. Had a little bumps and bruises there. I think, a little neck injury, but he didn't miss any time. He was in the whole season. And he proved to me that he can handle a big workload in a Brian Daboll offense, which wasn't as productive as you think last year. But I don't think I care if the guy's going to get all the workload. Derrick Henry can do it. Why can't he, right? Why can't this guy? So, Saquon Barkley, still a great player. I'd love to see him get some more pass-catching opportunities this year, which I definitely think is possible. Because I think second year in a new offense with a new offensive coordinator, or new head coach rather, the sky's the limit. If they could really figure out Daniel Jones and make him the best quarterback possible, I think Saquon Barkley can be a league winner. He's that good of a player. Coming in at number 5 is a controversial pick that I don't think is going to be that high on other lists. It's Tony Pollard. Now, this one is a shot in the dark, right? Like, no one's going to agree, but I love Tony Pollard. I did a video on him as well saying, hey, they need to just not play Zeke as much, and it needs to be the Tony Pollard show. In 2022, Pollard, on under 200 carries, had over 1,000 yards, averaged over 5 yards a carry, 9 touchdowns, 40 catches. Like, a great season. And he only played 50% of the snaps. It was a split, 49% with Zeke. Split dead even in touches this year. And he was awesome. Not to mention, the thing I love about Tony Pollard, he's a big play threat. Last year, 6th in the NFL in 10-plus yard runs. 6th in the NFL in 20-yard runs. Tied for second most with 4 over 30 yards. And tied for second most in the NFL with, I think it was 3 runs over 50 yards last year. So the dude is just explosive. He makes big plays. And not to mention, too, the one thing is, who else really is there? I don't love using that as an argument all the time, but for Tony Pollard, who else is? They have a running back on the roster from last year. They drafted Deuce Vaughn out of, was it Kansas State or TCU, one of the two. But he's a 5'5" running back. You know, is he actually even going to make the roster? Who knows? The only thing they did to really backfill Zeke Elliott was Ronald Jones. And if that scares you, then I think you're looking at it the wrong way. Sure, Ronald Jones will get some touches, for sure. Because they can't give Pollard 500 carries in a season. He'll never last. He's a smaller guy. But even if they just take the running back snaps from last year, which was 524 touches, if they do 524 touches again this year, hypothetically, and they made it a 55-60 split, 55 for Pollard, you throw in a little bit here for Ronald Jones and another running backs, you backfill all that. If you give him 60% of the snaps, 60-40, you get up to 314 total touches on the year. That's all I need from Tony Pollard. That could be 250 carries. Maybe give him another 60 in receptions, which I think is possible with him. Maybe a little bit more on the touches, whatever. If I can get him around the 300 touch mark, which I think is easily doable, I think Tony Pollard is a smash this year. And the reason I have him at 5 over my next player, Nick Chubb, which I love Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb is probably the safest player in all of fantasy football. I just want the upside, man. Chubb's going to have bad games because he doesn't catch passes, which we'll talk about in a second. But Pollard, he can catch passes and he breaks long plays. I'm in on Tony Pollard at number 5 overall. So like I mentioned, coming in at number 6 is Nick Chubb. I'm in on Nick Chubb again. Now, I think the market has finally caught up to Nick Chubb, which I've always been high. Everyone says, no, I don't know. He doesn't catch passes. How can he be so high on your list? The guy's foolproof. Does he ever bust for you? Overall in the season, if he plays, he's going to be top 10. If he plays at least probably 14 to 15 games, he's top 10. Guaranteed, lock in. You're getting a top 10. You're getting your return back on your first round pick. The problem with Nick Chubb, if you want to call it a problem, is he's inconsistent at times. There's a stretch where, I have it right here, from weeks 1 through 10, he had one game outside the top 14 at the position in PPR leagues, half PPR leagues. So basically, weeks 1 through 10, he had 1 week where he wasn't an RB1, basically. But then after that, weeks 11 through 17, he had 2 games where he did finish as the RB1 and RB3, which is awesome, right? What about the other games? He finished 17th once, and then outside of that, he was 23 or worse. So, when he's not getting a touchdown for you, he doesn't catch passes, he's kind of a dud. He can still get you the 20 carries for 100 yards game, but as your RB1, you need touchdowns or you need catches, and he doesn't give you both. It's a kind of a touchdown or bust kind of player, which could be great because, hey, he scores touchdowns, but the 5 to 6 weeks where he does go for 100 yards rushing and 1 catch and he gets you, 11 points, it's kind of a bust that week. So that's the only downside with Nick Chubb. But admittedly, he's a great player. I think he's probably the best running back in the actual league. As a rusher, I think he's the best. The contact balance. The fact that he's never averaged under 5 yards a carry in a season ever is insanity to me. Cleveland looks like they're kind of on the rise. They have great weapons on the outside. They might try to back him up with another running back. They haven't picked anyone yet, but we'll see. They're still free agents, obviously available. They could probably find another back to, a pass-catching back, which they tend to do. And Deshaun Watson, I think that's the big key here. If he's good, if he comes back to all-pro status, Nick Chubb could blow up. But if he's a hindrance, I think Chubb will still be good. But there could be a lot of up and down weeks that you probably didn't get last year from Jacoby Brissett, who was pretty solid. Coming in at number 7 is going to be Josh Jacobs. Man, I love Josh Jacobs. I've always been in, and I wish I didn't waver last year. Last year I bailed out, even though I love the talent, and look what happened. He blew up. Another bounce back guy. A guy who played in the preseason Hall of Fame game, which had everyone spooked last year. Everyone was scared. I was one of them. I thought Zaire White was about to take over. But Josh Jacobs proved he's an awesome running back. Did it in a situation that still wasn't that great. It never really is there in LA, or rather Vegas, with the Raiders. I don't know if Josh McDaniels is a good coach, but if the guy's going to go back and get 300 to 350 touches like he did last year, if he stays healthy, I hate saying the word bust proof again, but I just think it's true. Luckily, they brought in Jimmy Garoppolo, who I don't think is a great quarterback, but I also didn't think Derek Carr was that great either. I think Derek Carr's okay. I think Jimmy Garoppolo is okay. He's a starting quarterback in the league, but he's bottom half. The thing I love about Josh Jacobs is the talent, right? You get a player that you know is legitimately great. He can catch passes. He's a big back on the goal line, and he can take it. You know, he could take the hits. He did it last year. He battled a little injury kind of throughout the first couple years of his career, but I like him. The contact balance, the acceleration, the kind of grit on the guy to never go down on tackles and just it stays on his feet it's pretty remarkable. So Josh Jacobs, I think, in your first round is, I think, going to be a stretch towards the end with a lot of the receivers in there, you know, mixed in, intertwined. But if you had to pick between him and Nick Chubb, if you went for upside, it'd probably be Jacobs, because I just think Jacobs has the better opportunity to get all the touches, where in Cleveland, sometimes they cut Chubb off. They don't put him in for drives because they want to keep him healthy. They do that over and over again. And Josh Jacobs catches passes. Last year, I believe he had 60 catches. So Josh Jacobs may be a little bit more of an upside play, but if I'm going for pure safety, I'd probably pick Nick Chubb. And that's why I have Josh Jacobs at number 7, one spot behind Nick Chubb. And coming in at number 8, this is kind of where the list stops for me, where I go, okay, I'm comfortable with them being my RB1. And it's Jonathan Taylor. Jonathan Taylor had a decent year last year, admittedly. I think he was a good running back. I think he played well when he was healthy. But the offense was a wreck. You know, Matt Ryan proved that he just wasn't a good quarterback anymore. He wasn't really even in Atlanta the year before. They decided to go to Anthony Richardson, which I think is a big question mark, especially when you look at the quarterbacks and you could have went with someone like Will Levis, who was probably a little bit more polished, ready to play right now. You went with Anthony Richardson. And Richardson, I think, is pretty raw. I did do a scouting video. If you want to check it out, it'll be somewhere on the channel, probably pop right up here. Maybe this side. But, you know, Anthony Richardson, good player, I think, has a lot of potential. Huge arm, running quarterback, which could open up a lot of running lanes, especially with the read option game, like you saw it with Philly this year. But the big question is, you know, is that offense going to work? It didn't work last year in Matt Ryan. It didn't work with Sam Ehlinger. It didn't work with Nick Foles. It didn't work with any of them. And Jonathan Taylor, sure, he gets 30 touches a game, but, you know, at what point does the offense just be too hard to overcome? And that's why I have him at 8. I know consensus he's way higher, and I think Jonathan Taylor is like a pretty good player. Borderline great. I just, honestly, I've never super been in on the talent. Last year, I went in as my number 1 pick, and that was kind of, I was like lying to myself. I really didn't think he was the number 1 overall pick, and it showed true. So here, I feel pretty confident with him at 8. There's a chance he goes up and down maybe a few spots, but I don't see him cracking above Tony Pollard for me, or probably Nick Chubb. So maybe he has the ability to move up and down a little bit. But, I mean, at the end of the day, you're getting a great player who I think could be on a good team if Anthony Richardson is even decent, because Matt Ryan last year was not. And at the end of the day, even if that offense sucks, at least you will get a player who's going to get the majority of the team's touches and can catch passes and can be a great goal line back. Coming in at my number 9 is the rookie Bijan Robinson out of Texas, now Atlanta Falcon. Now, this is kind of the same story with Jonathan Taylor. While we think this guy is probably the next generational back, he hasn't proven it to me yet. I haven't seen him play a singular NFL snap yet, and that scares me. I'm going to probably miss out on Bijan this year just because I'm not willing to go high on him. I'm worried that the Falcons might pull some trick. I know they took him in the first round, so it feels like they have to play him. But I've just seen the first round running back not really pan out. It's been a while, but, you know, RB1s don't go in the first round, to be honest. You know, running backs really don't. But I feel like I've seen this kind of before where maybe he has a great overall first season, but what if he gets in slow? What if he works in slow? What if they go, hey, we're going to use Cordero Patterson and we're going to use Tyler Algier and we'll mix in Bijan Robinson? What if they do that for 4 games? You just lost your number 1 pick. You lost your first rounder right there because he's splitting with these other guys. And if Bijan Robinson didn't go there, I know you guys are high on Tyler Algier. So you have another good running back with Cordero Patterson, who I think is pretty solid, honestly. Is just kind of like a gadget weapon, but can play running back. So there's a lot of competition. I think Bijan eventually will win it. But the fear I have is, what if it takes them till the bye week? What if they go half the season and they go, okay, now we'll finally give Bijan the work. What if he splits? You know, there's a lot of options and there's a lot of variance in probabilities and outcomes there. So That's why I have him at number 9. I have him above some other guys that I like coming up, actually, just because I do think the upside's there. What if they just play him right away and he's rookie year Saquon Barkley, where he just busts out and can be the number 1 overall pick next year? It's on the table, right? It's on the table. Like, I don't feel like it is with the guys coming up, so that's why I have him at number 9. Behind a lot of the guys that I feel safest about, but in front of some guys who I think upside are slightly capped to where I think Bijan can just blow up fantasy football for this year. So coming in at my number 10 is Rhamondre Stevenson. Now, Rhamondre Stevenson, I think, is a really talented player. Stuck kind of on a bad New England Patriots team. A team that I think will be better this year with a new offensive coordinator. They finally got out of that mess with Matt Patricia, just a really defensive mind. And here, you know, who does Rhamondre Stevenson even have to compete with, right? You had the likes of Damian Harris last year. They would sprinkle in a rookie here and there. But they didn't replace with, you know, Damian Harris with anybody. Not a rookie, not anybody notable on free agency. Sure, we still have time, but I think at number 10, I like Stevenson. I know it's not consensus. I know that he's probably way lower on most lists, as most people's lists will have someone like, who's coming up, Travis Etienne, probably Dalvin Cook, Joe Mixon, Najee Harris, that group, Kenneth Walker, who's coming up soon also. I like Rhamondre Stevenson. To me, he's proven that he's a 230, 235 pound back who can handle the workload, is super tough runner, but that's not all he is, right? He's this guy that's super agile, really smooth as a runner, even at his big size, with great acceleration. I think footwork behind the line of scrimmage is really great, but has that boom, has that power. Never going to be the biggest play threat because the top speed isn't quite there. But I just think when we look and we get past that Bijan Robinson level, you start to run out of guys kind of quick who are just going to get the workload all to themselves, and that I think proven it can stay healthy. I mean, he didn't even miss a game last year. Only injury he had was he rolled his ankle, and he bounced right back the week after. So I like Rhamondre Stevenson. Only downside to him is, you know, what if that offense stinks again? You know, is it Mac Jones? Do they go to Bailey Zappi? Do they draft another quarterback? Well, they did not. But, you know, what if they bring someone else in? What if they bring in a veteran? They could do all these different things because the Patriots do that. But I like Rhamondre Stevenson kind of regardless. You know, he proved last year he can catch passes out of the backfield. He had, 60, 70 catches last year. The guy's pretty awesome. So Rhamondre Stevenson, just another year with maybe a better offensive coordinator. I just think, why can't this guy be a good goal line back on a Patriots offense that hopefully turns it around for the better in 2023? All right, so now we get to my 11th spot. These two guys coming up are kind of the last big hopes I have for RB1s, and that is number 11, Kenneth Walker. I think Kenneth Walker is great. I think the dude's actually really, really talented of a player. I'm glad he got his job in Seattle over Rashad Penny, who also is an alright player, but Kenneth Walker really showed out last year. Had big games left and right, caught some passes, not a ton, but caught some passes in the backfield, and is on a pretty good offense, right? I mean, we like the weapons there. DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett. They just drafted the rookie receiver at Ohio State. Geno Smith really turned his career around, really re-energized, vitalized his career in Seattle. So that offense looks really great for 2023, and I have high hopes for it. Kenneth Walker could be a part of that, and he could be a part in the positive way, not just someone that's attached to it, but he could really lead that offense. You know, I think the only thing that can struggle with him is that, do they trust him? You know, they just drafted a running back in the second or third, I think it was third round, which is kind of high draft capital for a running back. You know, so I don't know if that gives you the most confidence, and that's why I have someone like Rhamondre Stevenson over him, where I go, what if Kenneth Walker ends up splitting more heavily than we think, right? Like, what if they do the Rashad Penny Kenneth Walker split like they did last year? You know, we don't know what these guys think about Kenneth Walker. We think they like him in Seattle, but maybe they don't. You know, maybe they're not as impressed as we are. So with that makes me take a step back. But I still acknowledge that Kenneth Walker is a big play threat. He was the one who led the NFL in 50-plus runs last year. I believe he had 3. I mean, that's awesome. That's huge, right? Not everyone can do that. So the fact that Kenneth Walker can do that is pretty, high praise. I can see him having another great year, but there's risk there, especially if he ends up splitting carries with that new rookie running back. And lastly, I want to talk about my number 12 pick, and that's Travis Etienne. Now, this one was the hardest player for me to rank out of these running backs because I really like the player. He reminds me a lot of Tony Pollard. I made that comparison in I made a Travis Etienne video if you want to check it out, kind of like a scouting report video or, why I'm so high on him. And he's just an outside zone wrecker. Like, he has the crazy acceleration start to stop. And he does the one thing where in the secondary, he doesn't have a lot of like left right wiggle moves, but what he does is he is just so like bursty. I know that's like a bad word, but he just has so much acceleration that he can literally run around defenders and make them take bad pursuit angles, which is huge for big plays. He was another one who had the big plays left and right. Kind of a smaller back, so maybe not your traditional guy to get 300, 350 carries, right? He's not going to be Derrick Henry, but he doesn't have to be. You split him with a big back like they had with James Robinson. Bring in someone else. You know, whoever it's going to be, whether it's JaMychal Hasty coming back for another year, who knows? Jacksonville, just partner him with a bigger back and let Travis Etienne handle the receptions and the outside zone, you know, stretch runs out to the outside. Let him handle that. Because when you get this guy on the edge, he's electric. He can break big runs left and right. You do not want to pound him between the tackles 50 times a game and get him killed. That's the last thing you want. You know, give him a few, let him bounce outside, and let him get that stretch, find a hole, burst through it, get him one-on-one with safeties, and let him make big plays, because that's where he's going to cook. In an offense with Trevor Lawrence, you know, Evan Ingram, Calvin Ridley this year, you know, coming off the suspension, big things are happening in Jacksonville. Now, can this team recreate what they did last year or improve upon it? That's the big question. But with Doug Peterson offense, in a Doug Peterson offense, I just believe it. I trust it. Only reason I have him a little bit lower is he had some bonehead plays last year. Admittedly, like he fumbled in bad situations, dropped some passes in bad situations. Not saying the guy's an idiot. Not saying, oh my God, he's fumble proof. You can't trust him. That's not what I'm saying. He gives me more reason to lean that way a little bit due to some of the things he did last year. But at the end of the day, I still think he's a great player on a rising Jacksonville team. And I think Travis Etienne is one of those guys to where he's number 12. But at the end of the year, if they go, oh yeah, Travis Etienne was RB5, I'd go, yeah, it makes sense. He probably broke some long touchdowns and had a great year. So Travis Etienne, big fan. And he comes in and rounds out my 1 through 12 list for 2023. We're still early, but rounds it out right now. All right, that is my 2023 1 through 12 running back ranks. I want to thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. If you're new to the channel and you made it this far, like the video, subscribe to the channel, stick around. I will be back soon. I'm going to be recording my 13 through 24 video here very shortly, so stick around. If you want to check that out, like I said, subscribe to the channel, come back, and if you like any other videos you see on the channel, check them out. Stick around, and I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.